Hey guys, we'll wait for people to jump in, people to get started. Let me know if you can hear me okay. Just give me some replies in the chat box over here, and then once we get a few people in, we'll get started and talk a little bit this morning. So just let me know that we're good to go. I got a thumbs up, so I'm assuming that means we are good sound wise. All right, got a couple comments in. And I'll make this a content item at Rebel Grove when I'm done. And what I'll do is I'll put the time for anybody that jumps in late or is just starting this. Check on the content item at Rebel Grove, and what I'll do is I'll put the time we're actually starting here, so you'll see a bit of that. But again, everybody, can you hear me? Are we good? All good. All right, good. Wait just a couple more minutes, and we'll get going. The light in here is a little harsh. I had a light bulb go out in my office. I couldn't find any of the regular light bulbs, so it is what it is. I've got a lamp kind of over the computer right now to help out a little bit. Regular podcast back on Wednesday. Neil went to the Power Mizzou party in Memphis last night. He wasn't back this morning. Tomorrow, New Year's Day, then we'll be back full schedule, good to go, starting on Wednesday. So all podcasts back on Wednesday. I don't know if they taped a drunk G Pitts or not last night. I'm not sure. So we'll see what they did. I know Neil and Jay were in Memphis, so we held the fort down. They were doing that. They were at Jerry Lawler's, and there it is. So that's our schedule. We'll have some other stuff. I know some more basketball. Russell's doing recruiting, plenty of that over the weekend, but podcast on Wednesday. And okay, I think we're getting a few people in now. So as everybody knows, giving credit where it's due, just kind of giving everybody kind of where we are right now. We know, courtesy of Bunky Perkins' brother, that Rich Rodriguez was first in Oxford on Friday night. He had dinner or drinks with Matt Luke on Friday night. They had breakfast at BBB on Saturday morning, had an interview, went well, as would be expected. He left sometime on Saturday. I know he was calling Ross Bjork, I think, at that point. I don't think Ross was in town, maybe on Saturday morning. And then an offer was extended sometime yesterday afternoon, and all indications are that it was pretty much accepted very, very quickly. Rich Rodriguez, all in line to be the Ole Miss offensive coordinator. I don't know that a contract's been signed. I don't know if one of those offer sheets have been signed, but everything's moving forward as if it is done. Nobody's expecting any type of Pete Golding situation. Nobody's expecting any kind of snag here. I talked a little bit yesterday about how the university was closed today, is closed tomorrow, reopens on Wednesday, and that was more just a little bit of coverage because you never like things to drag on without being completely done from an HR standpoint. But I have no indication that should work people up. I know that some people were concerned just because of his history at West Virginia and whatever's going on with Holgerson and Houston. But again, there's no to this point, as of last night at least, it's 8:04 as we're doing this right now. I haven't talked to anyone this morning, but as of last night, there were no issues. And just kind of breaking this thing down a little bit. So, see Rich Rodriguez on YouTube now. Good touch. You can throw any questions at me. I'll start answering questions. But just while we're doing that, Pete Thamel was the first one yesterday to say it's a 3-year contract. I've independently confirmed that the offer to Rich Rodriguez is a 3-year contract, somewhere around $1 million a year. I think the Spirit had the amount per year, at least close to it first, but whatever. 3 years, somewhere around a $1 million per year, close to the Mike McIntyre salary, or at least the overall deal. They both got 3 years. McIntyre 1.5, and that's the weird thing about SEC and coordinators. Defensive coordinators make more money. McIntyre's making more than Rodriguez. But it seems like, especially for the young guys, the OCs have the better chance of getting the head jobs. It seems like for whatever reason, they make a little less money at their positions, but they're more likely to be picked as head coaches elsewhere. Obviously, after Rodriguez dealt with the end there at Arizona, he was accused of sexual harassment. He was cleared by the university in those charges, but he probably needs a little reset. So Ole Miss gives him the chance to get that. A very accomplished head coach. He also is a very accomplished offensive coordinator. He hasn't been an assistant since 2000, but you look back at what he did in those times. He was the mentor for Sean King during that Tulane undefeated season. He was the mentor for Woody Dantzler at Clemson right before he got the West Virginia job. And then over the last 16 years out of the last 17 years, he's been the head coach at West Virginia, Michigan, and Arizona. He was been always talked about as the run spread guy, and he's an expert at run spread. But he's done a really, really good job of being able to kind of adapt to his talent. He's had years where he's thrown the ball all over the place. He did a really good job with Khalil Tate there for a little while. So I don't think it's one of those instances where, hey, if you don't have this exact system in place, Rodriguez can't handle it. You look through some of his time at Arizona, especially, he was very adept at throwing the football around and getting a lot of that done. So again, just throw some questions at me. I'll answer them. If we're talking Rodriguez, if we're talking something else, probably gonna do about 20 minutes of this or so. So just over in the right side where you see the chat thing, just give me some questions and we'll go from there. I was asked one thing talking about salary at Arizona, and this is kind of irrelevant, but I will kind of take you through it a little bit. He was always mentioned as one of the top paid head coaches in college football at Arizona because his deal for 2017 was reading as a $6 million contract. And while that was technically true, a lot of that was because of a benefactor that had given a lot of money to Arizona. And there is certain dates where that money goes to Rodriguez. Since he was fired before March 15th of 2018, I think he received a little less than $3 million instead of that $6 million. So he did not receive the $6 million from last year. I know some people were asking that. That differs, obviously from the Mike McIntyre deal, where McIntyre, I think his buyout was 10.3 or 10.8 or something like that. And he receives all that no matter how much Ole Miss pays him. So over the next 3 years, McIntyre gets close to $15 million no matter what happens between the guaranteed 3-year deal at Ole Miss and then the deal with Colorado, which I think was 10.3. So I think it's 4.5 over 3 for McIntyre at Ole Miss and then 10.3 from Colorado. We will get recruit reaction to this. We're going to wait for the official announcement just for reasons. Before we start doing that, but I've already talked to Russell. We'll have things in place to get reaction from recruits. He's obviously a name, obviously someone who's very known around the country. Offensively, I would think quarterbacks would be pleased. He does a really good job with getting wide receivers and running backs into space, getting them out on the perimeter, kind of making you defend the entire 53-yard sideline to sidelines. I've asked a lot about recruiting. I'm seeing the question here from Carter Campbell. Thoughts on Rich Rodriguez's hire and impact on 2019 recruiting? And he's going to help. Obviously, next year into 2020 is going to be a much bigger deal. But I'm sure if you've got a guy like Plumlee, maybe he's interested in Rodriguez, just off the top of my head. He's that kind of guy that could think, hey, he would find a way to use me well in this system. And this kind of reaches to a thought that I've had with just kind of coordinators in general. Your assistant coaches that aren't coordinators, your foot soldiers, those are the guys that have really got to get a lot of your recruiting done. Your coordinators are there to close. They're there to finish that thing off along with your head coach to lock them in when you're getting close to the end. And I do think McIntyre and Rodriguez bring enough name value. I think they bring enough experience and kind of cachet, if you will, that they will be really good closers as coordinators. And that's what I think you want your coordinators to do. And, it's kind of one of those deals where Matt Luke's been under fire. We've all known that. But I have to give him credit for this one thing. He went out and hired 2 guys that have a lot of experience, a lot of wins for that matter. Both have been national coaches of the year. McIntyre at Colorado in 2016. I think Rodriguez twice at either West Virginia or different places. And it takes a certain amount of confidence to hire 2 guys that frankly have more name value than you, that can bring something, but are what are required if you're going to be that CEO type coach. And I think that's what Matt wants to be. I think he wants to let his coordinators handle both sides of the ball. I think he wants to handle the overall structure and shape of the program and kind of let those guys work. So I do give Matt a lot of credit for that because, it takes putting ego aside. It takes a lot of things to hire those guys as coordinators that definitely are not yes men, not guys that are going to have their same opinion as you on everything. They're gonna push you, and frankly, that's what this program needs right now. Any indications regarding position coach openings on offense? Well, obviously Maurice Harris headed to Liberty, so they've got to close that up. The two names that we hear, frankly, the two names that we hear every time kind of a running back or a tight end coach comes open, Ron Middleton. I know Matt Luke is very interested in him, and then the Joe Panunzio thing has not gone away. That continues to kind of hang around there on the periphery every time there is an assistant opening on offense. Recruiting specialists, both those guys. Obviously, Middleton has a lot of history with tight ends, so that makes some sense, and we continue to hear his name. And then we know Derek Nix has interviewed for at least one other job, but I don't know a lot there. I haven't really heard anything here in the last week or so with that, but I know he at least had entertained some possibilities there at other schools. So look, these coordinators are going to be given some thought into this. They're not going to come in and go, hey, you're stuck with these staffs and these assistants. So I do think you could have some movement once the coordinator situation is officially put through. I have not heard anything about Marcus Woodson. Doesn't mean anything. I mean, we didn't hear anything about Rodriguez till basically 48 hours before it's done, and that was for a coordinator. So Matt's done a pretty good job of keeping things low key when it needs to be low key. It was funny when those pictures started coming out from the graduate on Friday night, and then on Saturday morning, I told somebody, I said, this thing is probably all the way one way or the other. You're either getting him and you don't care who sees it, and you're knowing you've got a name and you're really happy with the hire that's going to get done, or frankly, and I don't hate this move, it wasn't going to get done, and you want everybody to see that you're trying and you're going after big fish and trying to hit home runs, which is also a really, really good thing too. So, it was a deal where once those pictures came out, I thought, hey, this thing's pretty far down the road one way or the other. I'm not popping the collar on my zip up. I think it would look stranger if I put it down. But again, it's 8:00 in the morning. I'm not going anywhere. It's New Year's Eve. There is no podcast, so deal with it. I threw a hat on just to protect my hair, so deal with it. I'm not aware of Nick's interviewing anywhere in the SEC. I think maybe Neil had heard Louisville, but that's, again, I'm reporting that. I'm saying that's what I've kind of heard there. So let's see. Any idea how the two schemes these two run match based off previous years? Well, I mean, there's going to be nothing compared to what McGriff and Longo were trying to do on their side. So it's going to be better no matter what. Look, Rodriguez can go tempo, but he's not the guy that just has to go tempo all the time. It's more about tempo is in the way he runs his offense. It's rhythm more than tempo, if you will. And I know that sounds crazy, but because he's going to be run control at times if the situation dictates it, if his personnel dictates it. He can also go fast trying to get down the field, but he's more about trying to mix up and keep you off balance than he is just trying to run absolutely as fast as possible in this helter-skelter speed. So I don't sense any tempo issues here. And then, with McIntyre, it's really more based off personnel. I mean, Ole Miss needs to go a little slower just until they get more depth defensively. I mean, that's where this thing is. That's not a secret there at all. Let's see. Some people ask about some of the other things going on with Rodriguez. I know we had the Michigan stuff with the NCAA. I think it's irrelevant. I think it's probably irrelevant anyway because everybody breaks that rule about practice times. When that gets brought up as an actual problem, is because somebody leaked it out or someone was trying to harm the program, and he's an assistant. All this stuff would be a much bigger deal if Rodriguez was a head coach candidate. They would have combed through probably, and there'd be more media attention on a lot of the stuff at Arizona. But again, he was cleared of all charges by Arizona, and it's an assistant coach. So I don't think that's a problem moving forward. I don't think it's some black eye on the program. I don't think it's anything to be overly concerned with. He had a rough go. He admitted to some extramarital stuff, and he's trying to kind of revitalize his career, and Ole Miss is giving him a chance to do that. Ole Miss has had a lot of offensive talent, and he can put up points and try to parlay this into another head coaching job down the road. McIntyre is on campus. He was recruiting there at the end of the early signing period, and then once everything gets pushed back or gets opened back up after the coaching convention, after the dead period, he'll be back on the road again. So, yeah, McIntyre is in fact on the road and fully here. I'm not sure what is going on with Siski. I have not heard that he's going to be an on the field coach, but again, they haven't got all this worked out yet. He's pretty valuable where he is in the recruiting office. I know he did a really nice job there when they did have a spot open to get out on the road, but I haven't heard that. What'd you think of Teddy B start? Teddy Bridgewater. We all know my love for Louisville. Look, you couldn't make anything of yesterday. I had somebody text me and go, "Hey, that looked terrible for the post Breeze era," but he was playing behind two tackles that I don't think had even played football this year. One of the guys hadn't played football since 2016. A lot of the other guys were sitting out. It was pretty lackluster all the way around because when you sit Kamara and you sit Breeze, you're sending a message to everybody in the stadium that I'm not trying to win the game today, that I'm just trying to get through this thing as healthy as possible. And that dictated everything. It took away a lot of the home field that they had yesterday against Carolina. So I wasn't overly worried. I wasn't happy about Bridgewater's performance, but I don't think you can overly really make much out of that. So whatever. I said Louisville for Knicks, but again, I'm not reporting that. We're talking rumors. That's what I heard. I don't know. I haven't really looked into it because it hasn't been relevant to this point. Let's see. Highest Q rate